Hello, I'm Barry Silverberg, Director of the Center for Nonprofit Studies at Austin Community College, and this is Civil Society, a periodic podcast to provoke more thinking about issues affecting nonprofit effectiveness and success. My guest today is Dr. Matthew Hensley, founder and executive director of Austin Classical Guitar, the nation's largest classical guitar nonprofit organization. Its mission is, and I quote, to inspire individuals in our community through musical experiences of deep personal significance. Trained as a classical guitarist, Matt not only founded Austin Classical Guitar, but teaches courses in art entrepreneurship and business management in the arts at the University of Texas at Austin. An optimist with a passion for using music to help people grow and heal, Matt has transformed classical guitar education in Austin, and he and ACG have changed the lives of thousands of youth here at home and throughout the United States. Matt, welcome.
Thank you very much, Barry. It's a pleasure to be here.
I must say that until my wife and I became familiar with all that Austin Classical Guitar does, I could never have imagined that guitar could be such a vehicle for people's changes in their lives. So why are you involved? Why do you do what you do?
Well, it's interesting. I think that I probably couldn't have imagined it either. Imagined some of those things, but I think we're still discovering it today. And I think that's really the magic of music, even beyond guitar. But I can tell you that why I got involved is that music has been a safe and comforting space for me for my entire life. As far back as I can remember, I was playing music and listening to music. My dad, who's a historian, is also a very talented pianist, and I grew up listening to him play. Music was a big part of our lives. We sang in parts at any vacations or holiday times as a family. I played violin and cello and piano before I played guitar, and then I played saxophone and trumpet after that, and sang in choirs, and it's always been a joyful place. And so music kind of found its way to me. I found my way to music, and at some point in my undergraduate years, I started to get very interested in nonprofit organizations as a vehicle for bringing people to the arts and bringing the arts to people. And I think it started out for me as a passion to create a marketplace for artists. I was frustrated by that conventional wisdom that well-meaning individuals impart to music students and art students, and that wisdom generally comes in the form, at least in my case, of, Matt, why don't you go to law school for graduate school instead of music school for graduate school so that you can make money and make a living? And it was probably good advice, but it's advice that I didn't take, and it was advice that bothered me after finishing an undergraduate degree in music at Oberlin. It didn't make sense that we have difficulty in this society providing value and proper compensation for art and artists. And so that was something I decided to get into, and that was just the very beginning of the journey before that took its big turn toward the bigger thing, which is the beauty and the service that art can provide in our communities.
So you mentioned all those instruments that you have learned to play. I can't play anything, so I can't even play cards. But why the guitar? Why have, I assume you decided, or circumstances that focused you on the guitar, and why is the guitar apparently such a useful vehicle for achieving the larger ends that Austin Classical Guitar seeks to achieve?
Yeah, it's great. It's two questions, I think.
Sure.
For me personally, I was playing violin and cello, and I got pretty serious about it as a youngster. It's about the time I was 10 years old, I was playing cello in a string quartet in a tiny town in the middle of New York State. And we had one music teacher in our K through 12 school, which was in one building. And I spent a lot of time after school at rehearsals and at lessons with that one man. His name was Frank Vecchio. And Frank was probably in his mid-20s when I was studying violin and cello with him. And one day after school in 4th grade, I asked him which of the instruments he taught was his favorite. And he said guitar. And guitar wasn't one of the choices. And so I said, well, I want to do that then. And so I so I began, so my parents got me a guitar and I began taking lessons with Frank. And tragically, Frank died about a month later in a car accident spinning off the road in a New York winter. And that entered obviously a really deep and dark period in my life as I was reacting to the loss of such an important person to me. And eventually my parents located the man who had been Frank's teacher, a guy named Ed Vollmer, who I'm still in contact with. And Ed became my teacher for a number of years as I pursued guitar. So guitar was a place that I could go, and it still is, and kind of saw me through a difficult period and gave me a connection to a man who had been very influential to me. And before I get to the second part of your question, I'll say that I think embedded in that answer and in that story is a really important lesson in the power of music and the power of connection to people. Because I think very much that the work that we do, I know we're going to be talking about, is really deep connecting work, connecting with self and connecting with others and mentors and social connection. And so much of that can be aided by music. Not just guitar music, but music and social learning. The second part of the question, which is why is guitar good at that? I think there's a lot of reasons, but the main one is the guitar is a self-accompanying instrument, like the piano. And by that I mean you can play, but a lot easier to carry around, and that's critical. It's also more affordable. And so it has a particular strength in that you can play the melody, you can play the bass, you can play them at the same time. You can be all by yourself, and in that sense, it's a very good vehicle for personal self-expression. You can also use it, of course, to accompany voice. And so as a portable instrument that has those capabilities, it's somewhat unusual. And so it allows us to go many places with it and reach many people at different levels with it.
Speaking of self-expression, one of the programs that you all have that really fascinated me is the Lullaby Project.
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about the Lullaby Project and what you're trying to accomplish in it and what some of the successes have been?
Absolutely. Yeah. The first thing about the Lullaby Project I should say is that the design for the project came from Carnegie Hall. And it was a reaction that the Carnegie Hall Wild Music Institute directors came up with in response to needs presented to them by caseworkers in the medical community for moms in New York City in very difficult circumstances, either in shelters or in hospitals or incarcerated. And the idea for the project is to use music as an opportunity to create a safe space for women in these kinds of challenging circumstances to get in touch with another human being and with their own hopes and dreams and fears. Lots of times as the caseworkers were presenting their problems to Carnegie Hall and looking for an arts intervention, an arts solution to their problems, the problems that they're talking about are stress, anxiety, alienation, particularly in the incarcerated population or in the teen mother population or in the homeless mom population, a lot of separation and isolation. And these are things that the medical community was telling them they were having trouble overcoming. Medical checkup is one thing, but an opportunity to talk to another person and elicit deep and personal, hopeful beliefs and statements of intention are things that were out of touch, even in a talking kind of an environment. And there are programs like that, like Centering Pregnancy, for example, which is a group talk kind of a program that's nationwide. So this became an opportunity for us to use what we do with the guitar to get in the room with individuals and talk to them, elicit responses, written responses to questions like, what do you dream for your child? What do you hope? What do you fear? Write a letter to your child. Your child is 15 years old. What do you hope for them at that point?
And these are mothers that are pregnant?
Or with small children.
Or small children.
Yeah. And we work with many different organizations as we partner and find the women that we work with and the girls that we work with for this particular program. But all of that written material is then distilled down into song lyrics. And then together with the mom, we write the song. We end up performing and recording the song. And then that recorded product becomes a durable expression that is not only something for her to have, to share, to sing, to be proud of, to have personally, but it's also an opportunity to share. And sharing is a very important part of this whole model and addresses that isolation piece as well. The opportunity to have this expression that can then be shared by electronic means or by live performance. The results of this project have just been so profound. The songs are so deep, so personal. They resonate so much with the women we work with their families and their kids, to the extent that we have been able to meet them, and with our artists as well.
Yeah. Describe briefly what the other kinds of programs that classical guitar provides. I know there's a juvenile program. There's obviously series in which people in the community get to enjoy top-notch classical guitar.
Absolutely. I would say that our services really kind of break down along a couple of lines. And the simplest one, and the one that I think most people would think of, is the entertainment side. So we have 7 different concert series. And the idea, I suppose you could say, is to meet people where they're at, devise things that are of significance to different kinds of people. So one series is our international series, which is the greatest classical guitarists in the world coming to Austin. Who many people love to see that. It's a celebration of international culture and artistry and pinnacle achievement on this instrument, and some of the greatest expression that humankind has produced in the history of humankind.
Well, some of them are absolutely phenomenal.
And thank you very much, and it's inspiring to see that. So that's one kind of thing we can do with guitar, and it ranges from that. Those are large events with lots of people, or big flamenco shows, all the way to concerts in homes, to concerts at the Thinkery with kids who get to strum the guitars themselves and make up stories, to partnerships with puppet shows at the Austin Public Library that are free for small children and families. Again, the idea is concerts for different people at different times in their lives, many different levels from free to somewhat expensive, and everything in between. So that's the entertainment piece, and we can maybe leave that at that and come back to it if we want, except to say that we also have a composer in residence. And our approach to modern music primarily at ACG is to use modern composition as an opportunity to interact with our current situation, topical issues, modern life. And that comes in many shapes and sizes. But the project we're engaged with right at this moment, as an example, is called Dream. And Dream is a youth voices project where we're asking many diverse kids to share with us the kinds of hopes and fears and forces in their lives as they're looking at the life before them, and the kinds of things that are affecting them, the sources of power, the sources of frustration. And we're turning that into an evening of multimedia presentation this summer. So we'll frequently get involved with that sort of thing as our more avant-garde part of what we do entertainment-wise. The biggest part of our kind of second category, which is education, is program building. In 2001, we moved in, kind of stumbled in really, to the space of public education. And a donor gave us a gift to provide free lessons for low-income students. And very quickly, once we began providing those lessons, we realized the environment we were in, which was the one class of guitar in Austin Public Schools, was an environment that needed assistance because the classroom itself was taught by a choir director who loved guitar, who was imparting his love of guitar to the kids, but who didn't have a lot of experience structuring a guitar class, because guitar is typically taught one-on-one. And so he was open to a discussion about how to enhance the class, and we spent the next 3 years co-directing the class with him. By the end of that time, the class had grown from 15 kids to several sections of kids in a second school totaling 100 kids. We'd had 6 graduates go to college on scholarship for guitar. And we realized we didn't know what we were doing. We were kind of using elbow grease and passion to inspire kids to play, but we were still very much inventing the wheel. And there wasn't a smart way to teach guitar in the classroom to large groups of kids, the way you might imagine a really good choir, orchestra, band program is structured, with all the literature that goes into supporting it, and all of the training that goes into the teachers to teach it. So we wanted that. And we spent the next 4 years, 2004 to 2008, developing it. And that whole product was launched online as a teacher resource in a place called guitarcurriculum.com in October of 2008. And it was a massive solution. It was a solution that, that defined a series of technical steps, laid over a philosophy of expressive, beautiful music making from the very first day, which is our primary engagement tool, expressive, beautiful music making. And then we created a large library of ensemble music with interchangeable parts so that a teacher could tell the system the individual breakdowns of students at diverse levels within a single classroom at the same time and say, well, I've got kids who had guitar last year, so they're level 4. I've got kids who've never had guitar before, so they're level 1. And I've got a couple ringers who've had private lessons forever, and they're level 9. Give me scores and parts that will allow me to meaningfully engage that group of kids right now in music making. And the system will do that.
That's fantastic.
When that launched in 2008, we had also had the opportunity to build 6 additional programs in Title I schools in Austin. And Austin recognized that guitar was appealing to low-income schools in a way that some of the traditional offerings were not. And so they began asking us to build school-based guitar programs in every middle school and high school in Austin, about 10 programs a year.
Wow.
So that was a scaling issue, and there's really 2 things going on. One is the systems build from a curricular standpoint, and the other is it's no longer us in a classroom teaching kids guitar, it's us teaching teachers to teach guitar. So we had to scale that up in developing a training protocol, and at the same time there became quite a bit of national interest in the program. So at this moment we have 350 partner teachers in Texas, we have 890 partner teachers around the United States, and we have a number of teachers internationally as well. Tens of thousands of students in classes that we have helped to develop. And that really forms the core of our educational services, which then extend to places like you mentioned, like the Juvenile Detention Center. We had the opportunity in 2010 to begin teaching guitar at Gardner-Betts, which is Travis County's Juvenile Detention Center. In 2012, the AISD, Austin Independent School District, partnered with us to turn those classes into the very first and only fine arts elective 4-credit course within the juvenile detention system. And this is a really big deal, and it's been running ever since, and with tremendous success, and that's extending out. We also have a full Braille adaptation of the system that we've been teaching at Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. The Braille piece was completed in 2012, and actually this week we are releasing a new Braille lifelong learning app for smartphones that will allow the graduates of that program to continue to play guitar in an empowered way for the rest of their lives.
Let me, I know there's more, but
Sure.
I need to stop
Absolutely,
you for,
move us along. Yeah.
So, very quickly, what are some of the myths that you come across people have about guitars?
Oh, well, there's all the good ones and there's all the bad ones. I mean, I think guitar occupies such a special place in the lore of our culture. Of course, a lot of that is in the pop realm. And, you know, you've got, you know, the blues legends of people selling their souls to become great artists. It's a wonderful thing that we create stories around music and that we share those stories. And we also create stories within music. I would say that one of the common conceptions that Austin classical guitar faces in the world is the word classical in there. We have this sense that there's big divisions between different kinds of music, which is really ironic because music is sort of the ultimate collaborator. it bends and moves and sways so effortlessly to go into spaces, and that's actually the reason why programs are successful. It's the reason why these programs are successful with vulnerable youth. It's the reason we can go into a jail and work with incarcerated moms who maybe perhaps feel very separated from our clinicians until the guitar comes out.
That's fantastic.
And as soon as it does, it breaks down those barriers. So it's ironic that we have a situation where we may say, well, I like jazz, but I don't like rock and roll, or I like blues guitar, but that classical stuff I don't like. The reality is that many of these traditions play within and around and on top of one another, and have for a very long time. So in our world, in the classical guitar world, we're proud of the traditions, we're proud of the skill required to play the classical guitar, maybe akin to the skill required to become a ballet dancer. One of the reasons we operate so seamlessly in the educational sphere is that the transferable skills that are delivered through a classical guitar course, like literacy and refinement and rehearsal skills and following a conductor and counting and all the other musicianship elements, those are all embedded within the approach to learning classical guitar. But the music itself can be anything.
Yeah. That is a fantastic summary of what you're talking about, what you've talked about, and just to encapsulate it, it seems to me it's all about self-expression and giving all people the opportunity, regardless of their life circumstances, that opportunity.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh, thank you, Barry. Appreciate being here.
So visit our website, nonprofitaustin.org/civil society, to read more about the issues we've discussed today. Also, please feel free to share your comments on today's podcast. This is Barry Silverberg with Civil Society, a Center for Nonprofit Studies podcast in collaboration with ACCTV. Thank you for joining us.